Shabbat Shalom, happy Sabbath. We're thankful again that Yah has been good to us. It's all of Him and none of us. This morning we would like to look at the subject, the yoke of Jacob's distress, the yoke of Jacob's trouble. And so the subject this morning is Jacob, this stress that we read in Jeremiah chapter 30 and verse 7. The predicate of our concern this morning is really what Jacob did. The verb of the predicate is what the subject did. And so the subject here is Jacob, and the predicate, therefore, is he wrestled. So we want to take a look at that and find out how that is translated prophetically and its existential relevance to us today, the time of Jacob's trouble. What does it actually mean? And so it seemed to me that the greatest want in the world today is a want of men and women who will not sell their souls for popularity or for fame. They cannot be bought or sold. People who are clean in their living and they're circumspect in the things that they do. And they're mindful of the fact that character matters. They're mindful of that. They're not timorous. They call sin by its right name. Those whose conscience is as true as duty is to them. It's like an arrow to a bow, like a needle to the pole. Their character will stand for right, though they are despised by other people. They do not embroidery the truth. They don't do that. Rather, they thread the needle through the fabric of life till at last they stitch every fiber in that fabric. That's the kind of people the world needs today. And perhaps we, like Abraham, we make the assumption. Yahweh said to Abraham, I'm about to destroy two cities, Sodom and Gomorrah. And Abraham seemingly makes the assumption that there must be at least 50 righteous people in that place. And he asks the question, will the judge of all the earth not do right? Will he destroy the wicked with the righteous? Yah, in essence, says, Abraham, you know me, I would not do that. Go and find me 50 people that are walking right, that are living right, that reflects my character. Go and find them, Abraham. And Abraham must have thought to himself, my nephew Lot is in that place. And he had been there for years, witnessing and teaching that which is righteous. There must be at least 50. And he counted. And he could not find 50. He could not find 40 people. He could not find 30 people. He could not find 20 people. He could not find 10 people. Jeremiah was told, in Jeremiah chapter 5 and verse 1. Go to Jerusalem, walk the street, and find one man that does right. One. Jeremiah could not find one man. And so we cannot make the assumptions that we often make that we have people who are living right. And so as we watch the unfolding events through the theaters of our homes, through the media, through television, through all the things that we watch, we see men of all persuasions, righteous and unrighteous. They are taking up their prophetic positions at this time. And with the characters they have hewn, that they have formed in life experiences, they are being fitted into the roles of the fulfillment of prophecy. I'm talking about leaders, whether religious or political. We are seeing them taking up their positions. And in the unfolding crisis currently on the way, there is a crisis on the way. When Jerusalem has become a burdensome stone, everyone wants a piece of Jerusalem. And somewhere, somehow, I hear Naboth saying, you cannot have Jerusalem. Here I hear other people saying, not precluding the United Nations, let us make it 2 states. Let us cut up this part and give that part to that person and to that person. And the word says the land should not be sold. And so men are fitting themselves to fulfill the prophecies of Yah's agenda, if only they knew it. And so I see the unfolding of these events tells me that we are adding, if we're not there, the time of Jacob's trouble. That's where we are. And so turn with me to the book of Bereshit, because we need to understand what it was that precipitated the time of Jacob's trouble. So we can study the pattern and know when it is and how we ought to respond. We know that Jacob stole his brother's blessing. We know that. And as a consequence of that, he had to flee to his uncle's house, Laban. He had to do that. And he had been there a while, and Yah was now blessing him, but he had met someone like himself called Laban, who had tricked him also, and so gave him the wrong wife that he had not chosen. Gave him Leah when he had feelings for someone else. Rachel. And so we need to understand what's happening. And so he labored hard. This man labored hard and served Laban several years. But it was now time for him to return home at Yah's request. But he had not dealt with the issue that caused him to flee with his brother Esau. And so he heard that his brother is coming to meet him, and his brother had 400 men, and he was afraid. And as we look into the Middle East and that surrounding area, we're still dealing with the remnants of that situation. We're dealing with that. And each group of people are sending out their own sons to fight against each other's sons. And until we accept the son that Yah himself had sent, we will forever be bombing each other's son without any solution. Abraham tried it to offer his own son on the altar. And Yah said, Abraham, I will provide. And a ram showed up. When Yishtak, or Isaac, asked the question, Father, I see everything, but where is the ram? That question was asked in Genesis. But the question was never answered until in the New Testament. Behold, the Lamb of Yah cometh, says John the Baptist. Behold, he cometh to take away the sins of the world. Chapter 32, the book of Bereshit. Come with me there, and we read from verse 22. And he arose, this is Jacob, up that night, and took his 2 wives and his 2 female servants and his 11 sons, and passed over the ford of Jabbok. And he took them and sent them over the stream and sent over what he had. He heard his brother is coming. He saw is coming, and he got to fix this matter with his brother because it is the time of his trouble. It is the time of his distress. And as I indicated, the concern of us this morning is that which he did. The predicate is the verb of which he did. He wrestled. And the word says in verse 24, and Jacob was left alone. And the man wrestled with him until the breaking of day. And when he saw that he did not overcome him, he touched the socket of his hip, and the socket of Jacob's hip was dislocated as he wrestled with him. And he said, let me go to the day breaks. Let me go, because day's breaking. But he said, I am not letting you go until you have baraked me, you have blessed me. I can't let you go until you bless me. I've wrestled all night. It's been a toilsome task. We've been in this message a long while, and we want the blessing. And he said, your name. What is your name? And he said, Jacob. Perhaps he remembered a few years later when his father Isaac asked him, what is your name? He said his name was Esau. But now he's going home. He knows that he can no longer continue lying, so he tells the truth. Because we're dealing here, our subject is the yoke of Jacob's distress. A yoke, as you know, it's a curved wooden bar that is put over the animal's necks, 2 animals' neck, usually oxen, so that it lightens the load, and they work in unison. And you understand why Yeshua said, Bring your yoke and give it to me, and I will give you mine, because my yoke is light. What is your name? I want you to understand that the question, what is your name? Because names are, in Hebrew, synonymous with character. You know, we can change our name and call ourselves any kind of thing. And people do that when they establish churches. Some say, well, we're Pentecostal, yet they don't keep the Feast of Pentecost. Some say they are Jehovah's Witnesses, but they don't witness as Jehovah did. To be a witness of Jehovah, you have to do things the way he said. To the law and to the testimony, Isaiah said in 8 and verse 20. If they speak not according to the word, it's because they are in darkness. Jacob, what is your name? He says, my name is Jacob. He said, your name shall no longer be called Jacob. Your name is Yisrael. I want you to understand something. You can change your name if you want and call yourself all kinds of things, but you cannot get this name Israel until you have wrestled. He that overcometh, the same shall be called Israel. You don't get this name before you wrestle. You don't. And so when I speak of Israel, I want you to understand that I'm talking about a people who have overcome. Not a biological Israel, somebody born in Jerusalem. Not a geographical Israel that were brought from Europe and given a piece of land by the Balfour Agreement. That's not the Israel of Yah, Galatians 6:16. That's not how Jacob got his name. He wrestled with a mighty angel all night, and he overcame. And when translated prophetically, it means that yes, people at the end of time are going to wrestle again with circumstances. They're going to wrestle. And so we're dealing with a time of trouble. The word says in Daniel 12 and verse 1, at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people, and there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time, and at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. Did you get that? At that time. At what time? At the time of trouble. When the Antichrist, the anti-Messiah, is in his peak. And the apostasy in the church is rife. And people are betraying the truth. And are listening to doctrines of demons. So Paul says to Timothy, which means they have left the faith. 1 Timothy chapter 4, because the Ruach speaks expressly that in the last day many will leave the faith, but they will remain in the churches. At that time. And as I examine events, nothing trouble my spirit and inform me more than the period of COVID, when all the churches worldwide You didn't hear me. I said worldwide, we're closed. Even if we factor in the Black Death in Europe, when the plagues were rampant, only certain churches in Europe were closed. But with COVID, the world churches were closed. And so when I read the book of Revelation, chapter 3, and I read the message relating to Laodicea, we see Yeshua outside knocking. And that intrigues me because John says, I saw him in chapter 1 of Revelation. I saw him in the midst of the candlestick. And I know where the candlestick is. It's in the first apartment of the sanctuary. He's in the midst. But John now says he's outside and he's knocking, meaning the church's doors are closed. And I can only imagine that this is during the COVID period. We've never seen anything like this before. And so the word says, at this time, Daniel's people will be delivered. Now, some have conjectured widely, and perhaps foolishly too, and they ascribe this to say these refer to a group of people claiming Jewry that lived predominantly in the land of Israel today. But let's reason together according to Isaiah 1:18. Daniel was taken in captivity with his 3 friends. And they were put through severe test and training. Oh, yes. And in chapter 3 of Daniel, we're told when the decree went out that everybody should bow down to the image, they decided they wouldn't do it. The assumption here, reasonable assumption, that the other people who went down there, they bowed. So when we talk about Daniel's people, we're talking about the people who overcame the test. They overcame. Not everybody. You're not a Jew because you're born in Israel. You're a Jew because you were reborn. Tehillim, chapter 87, Psalm 87. One man was born there and another was born over there. Whether it be the Caribbean, whether it's America or Britain, you were born in Zion because you accept Yeshua. You cannot deny the Messiah and say he hasn't come yet and still consider yourself an Israelite. And so what we're looking here is that Yeshua is in the sanctuary. We know that. He moved from the holy to the most holy because we see that in the book of Malachi. And when we check the last time in Daniel chapter 7, 9, and 10, we saw that he had come to the Father, the Ancient of Days. And thrones were cast down, and 1,000 times 10,000 stood before him, and the judgment was set, and the books were opened. So he's judging. And while he's judging, messages being sent out by the 3 angels of Revelation chapter 14. And we are told at this time, what you must do, you must worship Yah and give him glory, because the hour of the judgment has come. And Peter, Kepha, the apostles, makes it known to us that judgment starts in the house of Yah. Judgment starts on the church. 1 Peter 4:17. So we know that this judgment is dealing with the church because the other judgment that deals with the wicked is a distinct judgment that deals specifically with the wicked. That's a white throne judgment, not this one. So the angel wants you to know, give glory to him. And the way you give glory to him is to obey him. If he says, keep my Sabbaths, including the feast days, you don't give him Sunday and give him Christmas and give him Easter. That's not obedience. Give glory to him. Then he tells you, the second angel, Babylon is fallen. Babylon. Because this woman, she's listed both as a woman and as a city. Babylon. She's fallen. Mr. Babylon. We got to get it right before Yeshua comes out of the sanctuary. Because when he comes out of the sanctuary, there is no mediator left. Because we're told in Revelation chapter 7 that the angels that have come to pour out the vials, that the restraint that is put upon the world will soon be released when these people, the righteous people, are sealed in. And so if you're going to get it right before Yeshua comes out. Because in Revelation chapter 22 and verse 11, it says when he comes out and an announcement is made, it is done, it is finished. He that is righteous, let him be righteous still. And he that is filthy, he will continue to do filthy things. Meaning your eternity is sealed. That code, that moment, that picture, your mug shot is taken for eternity. We've got to understand that. The loud cry says, it is done. And all the angelic host lay off their crowns and makes a solemn announcement. He that is unjust, let him be unjust still. And he that is righteous, let him be righteous still. So Yeshua leaves the sanctuary, and darkness now covers the whole earth. That's the time of Jacob's trouble. The whole earth. Isaiah says, gross darkness. And in that fearful time, the righteous must now live in the sight of Yah without an intercessor. There is no one in the temple right now because you should have been doing afflicting your soul while he was in there, the high priest. And he's making the atonement. I've heard it said, people have said, the atonement was made at Calvary. And I ask the question, who made it? Because in Hebrews 8 and verse 4, the word tells us that Yeshua was not a priest while he was on earth. We know from the word of Yah that he was the appointed high priest. He was the Kohen Agadal. But he did not act in that capacity while he was on earth. Therefore, he could only have acted in that capacity after his ascension. And we have bona fide proof in the word of Yah that he moved from the holy to the most holy and he makes the atonement. But he's soon to come out. And when that darkness covers the earth, that's when the wrath of Yah, unmixed, undiluted, will be poured out on the world. Why? Because the world has rejected his mercy. Because by that time, we're told the third angel is coming. They've rejected that too. And the mark of the beast is on the people. They have rejected Angel 1, Angel 2, and Angel 3. The three angels' messages, the messengers that came with the message in Revelation chapter 14, they've rejected them. And the wicked people, they have passed their boundary. They've passed it. They have resisted truth. They have resisted truth. And so, one of the issues that we have is the fact that we are trying to ascertain truth in a relativistic society. Everything is relative. And so we are trying to ascertain truth. We are being asked to live upright in a society that is walking on its head. How do we do that? And we are looking at the subject this morning, the yoke of Jacob's distress, his trouble. And so we want to turn to the book of Samuel, 1 Samuel, that is, chapter 3. And we read verse 1. And the child Samuel ministered unto Yah before Eli. And the word of Yahweh was precious in those days, even now. Whenever you have a famine, food is precious and water is precious because there is a scarcity. And because Yahweh was not on speaking terms with Eli at that time, as he won't be with many of the priests and the bishop and the pastors in the last days during the time of Jacob's trouble, truth is going to be scarce. You will hear people talk and you will hear preachers preach, but if they speak not according to the word, it means you're in a church full of darkness. Because Yeshua, the word said, is outside and he's knocking. They might tell you something else, but you must stay with the word of Yah and the prophets that he spoke to. And so, in Samuel time, truth was precious. And it came to pass at that time when Eli was laid down in his place, and his eyes began to wax dim. You see the parallel? Laodicea is blind, like Eli, can't see. We've got to understand the prophetic application of these historical events. We've got to understand them. His eye is dim, and he could not see. And here the lamp of Yah went out in the temple. The lamp, the menorah, was not supposed to be put out. And this is the point I'm making earlier. And we will go there later on when we read Revelation 18. We see the light has gone out, and that's why Yeshua is outside. In this temple here at Shiloh, the tabernacle, the light went out. Darkness was on the people. That's why the Philistines were able to capture the ark. The ark is sacred. And that which was in it, the Lord, was even more sacred. The law is a transcript, a reduction to words of Yah's character. And so the people in Eli's time did not keep good watch. Let's read Shemot. That's Exodus, chapter 27, and starting at verse 20. It says, "And thou shalt command the children of Israel that they bring thee pure olive oil, beaten for the light, to cause the lamp to burn always in the tabernacle of the congregation without the veil, which is before the testimony. Aaron and his sons shall order it from evening to morning before Yahweh. It shall be a statute forever unto their generation, unto the behalf of the children of Israel. The lamp, the menorah, should burn always. And I'm letting you know that during the period of COVID in 2019 and moving on, that the lamp went out, the churches were closed, there was no light. And who closed it? The state. We've got to understand what is happening prophetically. So you need to understand that the time of trouble that I'm here talking to you about, while men may devise their machinery, their war machinery, their warships, and their guns, and threaten each other, each nation boasting, we don't have to worry about that. It was a single angel that destroyed all the firstborn in Egypt. One angel. It was one angel when King David took a census that he should not have taken, and trouble broke out, and destroyed all those people. And so the point here, when Yah's presence is finally withdrawn from the control of things, and he allows Satan to hold sway, the most horrible and the malign thing will take place on the earth we call the time of Jacob's trouble. That's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. And so you've got to understand what's happening now, because Yah doesn't want his people to be lost. He takes no joy in this. And so the fourth angel come in Revelation chapter 18. You better come with me there. And after these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen. What? Now, we're dealing with Revelation, so we know that he's not dealing with the Babylon of Nebuchadnezzar or Belshazzar. This is Mr. Babylon, fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, the hold of every foul spirit, and cage of every unclean and hateful birds. All the institutions of this world, religious and otherwise, are filled with corruption, are filled with things that Yah says offends him and sends a stench to his nostrils. That's what's happening. Everything. The Sabbath is being trodden on. The feast days are being trodden on. And so, yes, people now, like Jacob, are having to wrestle with circumstances. Laws that are being made by the state that offends them because it's not right. And when the laws of Yah come in conflict with the laws of men, we got to do what Daniel did to become like Daniel's people. You can put us in the fire, says the three Hebrew boys, but we will not bow down to you. We will not. And you can put me in a lion's den, but I will pray to Yah, says Daniel. Because the moment you put me in there, Yeshua will join me in there. He will accompany me in there, and not one hair of my head will be singed. Not one. So Jacob's night of anguish, his night of distress, is a precursor, is a forerunner to Yah's people's distress at the end of time. And so insight into that insight, it is what gives us the foresight to understand what is happening. It represents the experience of Yah's people at the end of time, when deception is practiced. Remember, deception was foremost in Jacob's experience. He was the one who deceived his brother. And then Laban deceived him. So we see that deception is going to be a core issue at the end time. Because we are told in Revelation chapter 13 that the earth beast will be one who deceived all nations. All nations. And so, like Jacob's family, we are going to be unharmed and defenseless, going to meet the Esau's of this world. And we're going to be thinking we're like sitting ducks. But don't forget, Michael stands up at this time to fight for Daniel's people. And so we need to take courage in that. Got to take courage in that. And so this is what is coming up on the world. In Revelation 14 and verse 6, and the angel that is coming from mid-heaven, from the Shemamim, having the everlasting good news to preach on the earth. It doesn't mean that an angel is coming to take the pulpit and preach. No, the angel brings the message to the messengers in the church, the elders, the priests, the bishop, and their responsibility is to make sure that the people, the congregants, and the world gets the message. When you read Revelation chapter 1, the word says that the message there was given to Yeshua by his Father, who gave it to an angel, and the angel gave it to John, and John took the 7 letters to the 7 churches. It's the same thing. So it's our responsibility to get the message out. It cannot be an everlasting gospel if it is filled with errors. It has to be preached verbatim the way Yeshua gave it. He says, remember the 7th day to keep it holy. 6 days you labor, and you do all the work that you should do during the course of the week. But the 7th day is a sacred day with sacred hours assigned only for Yah. Then he said, keep all my festivals. Are you with me? Keep all my festivals. In the book of Acts, chapter 2, it says, on the day of Pentecost, when the Ruach came, the people were in one accord, and they were in one place. One assumed that they were on the Temple Mount, not necessarily in the temple. Before that, the disciples were in the upper room. And the reason I make that assumption is that I don't believe the upper room was capable of holding 3,000 people who got baptized. I understand it's big enough for 120. But when Peter started talking, and they're asking him, well, what should we do? He says, repent and be baptized. And 3,000 were baptized. I think they were on the Temple Mount. The Bible doesn't specifically say exactly where they were. And Peter explained, Kepha explained, this is what the prophet Joel spoke about. That's what he said. This is what Joel spoke about in Joel chapter 2. So it's important for us to take note of that, because let's go there. Yoel. It's giving his proper title. Why instead of J? Because there was no J at this time. And let's look at verse 22, reading on. Do not fear, you beasts of the field, for the pastures of the wilderness shall spring forth, and the tree shall bear its fruit. The fig tree and the vine shall yield their strength. Verse 23, and your children and you children of Zion, be glad and rejoice in Yahweh your Elohim, for he shall give you the teacher of righteousness, and cause the rain to come down for you, and the former rain and the latter rain as before. Verse 24, and the threshing floors shall be filled with grain, and the vats shall overflow with new wine and oil. Then I shall repay you the years that the swarming locust has eaten, the crawling locust and the consuming locust and the gnawing locust, my great army which I sent among you. Did you get that? Yeah, it says these locusts that came and gnawed at your grain. He said, I sent them. They're my army. But he says, I will repay you back. You know, sometimes I hear people say, why did Yah allow such and such a thing? Innocent people died in this. And my response to that is, Yah is quite capable of restoring anyone who died. That's what the resurrection is all about. He will restore them. It's not too difficult for him to restore people. He says, I sent this. But so when Peter looked at this, Peter said, this is what the prophet Joel spoke about. So we conclude from this that Pentecost in Acts chapter 2 was the early rain. Understand where I'm going with this? Because I'm going there because the churches do not keep the feast days. This is the festival of Pentecost. And Peter says, this is the early rain. The latter rain, therefore, will come in the season of tabernacle on the Sabbath. And the church said, we don't keep Sabbath. We don't keep the annual Sabbath. So the former rain was on the feast of Pentecost, and the latter rain will be in the season of tabernacle, at which time those people who do not keep it will not receive it. As you read through the book of Acts, have you ever been curious enough to ask yourself the question, if the Ruach that came down on that day, did the Pharisees and the scribe receive him? Did they receive it? We read nothing of that. But there, they were looking at keeping the feast. So why is it that we read nothing of them receiving the Ruach on that day? We read of people who had traveled from all over the world, including Africa and Asia and Europe, to receive it. But those who were there, and the same thing will repeat itself again. It will repeat itself. Oh, yes. And what's happening today is very, very simple. So come with me to 2 Timothy chapter 4, and the word says from verse 1, I charge thee therefore before Yahweh and Yeshua Mashiach, who shall judge the quick and the dead in his appearing and his kingdom. Preach the word. You must do what? Preach the word. Be instant in season, meaning appointed time, meaning during the feast day, and even when it's not a feast day, in seasons and out of season. That's what season mean in Hebrew, appointed times. Reprove. You must do what? Reprove. People don't like to be reproved. Rebuke. They don't like that at all. Exhort with all long suffering and doctrine, for the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust shall they heap to themselves teachers having itching ears. That's the kind of teachers they want. People who will tell them things that do not vex their feelings. That's what they want. That is what the churches want. They will tell you, oh, I don't like that one because what he says, it's too painful. You cannot overcome unless you wrestle. You got to wrestle with your own circumstances. That's how you overcome. Whether it's ill health, whether it's finances, whether it's your family, children, you've got to wrestle. That's how Jacob got his name. But I don't think many of us are understanding. And so, Mishli, that's Proverbs 15 and verse 25, speak to such people. There is a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. Are the ways of death. But we must search the scriptures, according to Matthew 5 and verse 39. For in them we have eternal life. We have eternal life. And in the way we live, according to Ephesians 5:27, he said that he might present it to himself, that's us, as a glorious assembly, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be kodesh and without blemish. And people will tell you, well, we can't be perfect. It says no spot, no blemish. Come as a clean offering, a living offering of sacrifice, without any blemish, in thought or in deeds. That's what he wants from us. But teachers are teaching, seducing spirits, doctrines of demons, that you can't be perfect. That's how they teach it. And so the word is this: Yeshua is making up his jewels. Daniel says, and I saw that the books were open. Daniel chapter 7, 9, and 10. And another book was opened, the book of life. And all who has ever lived, their names are in there, to see whether or not they maintain fellowship with each other and they maintain the faith in obedience to Yah. I well know that many people are faithful to their denomination. But that faithfulness to the denomination does not translate to being faithful to Yah. They rely on their pastors, their bishops, their priests, their elders, but only the word of Yah. The Bereans, you know what they did? When the apostle Shaul spoke, they went home and they studied it. How often? Every month? Every day, to see what the apostle was saying, whether or not is true to the law and to the testimony. If they speak not according to the word of Yah, you're living in darkness. And as I think of these men, scholars and theologians, many of which are in sinecure offices, I ask myself the question, how is it that they could muster up an argument to tell the people that the laws have been done away with? You better join me in Matthew 5. Think not, and I mean verse 17. Think not that I have come to destroy the law of the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. I've come to magnify the law, to show you how to live. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass. Do we still have a heaven and an earth? Yes. He says, until these two pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law, till all be fulfilled. Whoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments, and shall teach men, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of Shemaim. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So when I hear people say, well, I have faith, I ask them, what is the verb of what you speak? Faith is a verb. It's the doing. You can speak all kind of words, but unless you're doing what you say, you have not yet spoken. And so, come with me to the book of Chizayon. I promised you that I would go there. Chapter 18, where the fourth angel came. So after the three angels spoke in Revelation chapter 14, and they gave the three messages. It says, worship Yah, because the hour of his judgment has come. The assembly, the church, is being judged. And by the time, second angel come and said, Babylon, Mr. Babylon is fallen. And by the time the people did not listen to them, they have the mark of the beast, which allows them to buy or sell. But those who were faithful, like Daniel's people, they would not be able to buy or sell unless they have the mark of the beast. So the fourth angel come and says, come out from among him. Come out. Let's read it. Chapter 18, verse 1. And after this I saw another messenger coming down from the Shemaim, having great authority, and the earth was lightened from his esteem. And he cried with a mighty voice, saying, Babel the Great is fallen, and has become a dwelling place of demons. Did you hear that? Of haunts of every unclean spirit, and haunt of every unclean and hated bird, because all the nations, how many nations? All the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her whoring. It's talking here, Revelation 17, the woman, a church, has fed them with falsehood, and they have drunk it like liquor. And obviously, whatever informs your thoughts usually informs your action. And he's saying in verse 4, come out. Well, let's read it. And I heard another voice from the Shemaim saying, come out of her, my people, lest you share in her sins, and lest you received of her plagues. So plagues are being prepared for this woman. Come out. Yah says, I know I have people in there. Come out. Come out. Abraham, go and tell Lot to come out of Sodom. They're my people. Abraham went. The gospel preachers and teachers, they have been. And so the work is done because the angel comes back and says, the work is done. And so when the work is done, Yeshua comes out of the temple. It comes out. What interests me also, this woman in Revelation chapter 17, the word here says, and one of the seven messengers who had the seven bowls came and spoke with me, saying to me, come, I will show you the judgment of the great whore. So there's judgment prepared for this woman, sitting on many waters, with whom the sovereigns of the earth committed whoring, and the inhabitants of the earth were made drunk with the wine of her whoring, is false teaching. And he carried me away in the Ruach, in the wilderness, and I saw a woman. So it's in the wilderness. The woman was in the wilderness. And don't tell me it's all symbolic here. The woman was in the wilderness. Now, one of the things that allows me to think the way I'm thinking here, and you will see that in a minute, the word goes on in Revelation 17 to tell me that this woman here, this whoring woman, this harlot of a woman, she's the mother of all harlots. All other denominations, churches that follow her are her daughters. Now, logic, you know, has to be consistent. Truth has to be logically consistent. It has also to be empirically adequate. And it has to be existentially relevant to the times in which we live in. That's what we call current truth. So in my reasoning, my logic, the mother has to be older than the daughters. And so I go back to Daniel chapter 2. And Daniel tells me there are 4 kingdoms to come. There is Babylon, there is Media Persia, and there is Greece. And scholars tell you that the 4th empire was Rome, that later on split up and became the Byzantium Empire in the east, that was seated in Turkey, in Pergamos, where Satan's seat was. That's the word of Yah. Why am I going this way? Because if Rome is the 4th kingdom, mean Rome was not in existence at the time of Babylon, then the religion that exists must be the mother of harlots. The one that was practiced at China. So come with me now to Isaiah chapter 21. The burden of the desert of the sea. Where did it say? We just read in Revelation 17 that the woman is in the desert of the sea, as whirlwind in the south passed through. So it came from the desert from a terrible land. This is Isaiah, the prophet, speaking, writing 700 years before Yeshua. A grievous vision is declared unto me, the treacherous dealer dealeth treacherously, and spoiler spoileth. Go up, O Elam, besiege, O ye Media, all the sighing thereof I made cease. Hold on. Elam is today's Iran. Isaiah is writing here, and I'm wondering, what is he trying to teach us? Therefore are my loins filled with pain, pangs have taken hold upon me, as the pangs of a woman that travaileth. What? A woman travaileth. I was bowed down at the hearing of it. I was dismayed at the seeing of it. My heart panted, fearfulness affrighted me. The night of my pleasure had been turned into fear unto me. Prepare the table, watch in the watchtower, eat, drink, arise, he princes, and anoint the sheath. For thus hath Yah said unto me, go and set a watchman, let him declare what he seeth. Come with me now to verse 9. And behold, here cometh a chariot of men with a couple of horsemen, and he answered and said, Babylon is fallen. This is Isaiah. And we're reading the same thing in the book of Revelation. Babylon is fallen, and all the graven images of her gods he hath broken unto the ground. Ho, my threshing and the corn of my floor, that which I have heard of the master of hosts, the Yah of Israel, have I declared unto you. The watchman is telling you what he saw. Verse 11. The burden of Duma, he calleth to me out of Seir. This is where Esau lived, in Seir, Mount Seir. Watchman, what of the night? Watchman, what of the night? The watchman said, the morning cometh, and also the night. If ye will inquire ye return come. The burden upon Arabia. What? The watchman said, the burden upon Arabia, in the forest of Arabia shall he lodge, O ye travailing company of Dedan. Is Isaiah telling us that the city here is Arabia? Is that what he is telling us? We got to ask this question. And so, because Yohanan says the woman is in the wilderness. And years ago, these places, before they were irrigated and cities were built up, they were largely deserts. And so we're wondering, and we will leave it at that, because we don't want to wander beyond our own comprehension. The thing is this, that this woman is going to be burned. And he says this woman deals with the merchants. That's what it says. With ships. And all the other things. Come with me again back to the 18th portion of this book. And the kings of the earth, verse 9, who have committed fornication and live deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of the torment, saying, Alas, alas, the great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is her judgment come. Last week we talked about 1 hour being 15 days. So we're told here that in 15 days, this great city, wherever she is, will be burned. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore. The merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones, and of pearls and fine linen, and purple and silk and scarlet, and chain, wood, and all manner of vessels, or ivory, and of other things, and brass and iron and marble, and cinnamon and odors, and ointments and frankincense and wine and oil. Did I say oil? And fine flour and wheat and beast and sheep and horses and chariot and slaves and soldiers. This woman is a dealer. All these merchants will bewail her. Now you better come with me to verse 22 and verse 23. And the voice of the harpers and the musicians and the pipers and the trumpeters shall be heard no more at all in thee, and no craftsman of whatever craft he be shall be found any more in thee, and the sound of the millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee. Verse 23. And the light of the candle, the menorah, shall shine no more at all in thee. Why? Because she's in darkness. The church is in darkness. Babylon is in darkness. And the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride. Who is the bridegroom? Yeshua. So if you're not hearing the bridegroom voice through his word being preached from the pulpit, what are you doing there? That's why the angel came to tell you in verse 4 to come out. The bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. The bride, many have said, is the church. So when the churches were closed during that period of the pandemic, one gets the impression here that's when Yeshua was outside knocking individually for each to open so he could come and sup with us. Let me read on. It says, for in thy merchants, we just read in chapter 17 about the merchants that are trading with the woman. He says, at this time, the merchant were the great men of the earth. Who were the great men of the earth during COVID? Who were giving instruction? The pharmacia, the medical establishment. For by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. This is the word of Yah. If we ought to conclude that this is what happened during that period of time, he says there was a great deception. Verse 24, and in her was found the blood of the prophets and of the saints and all that were slain upon the earth. They killed the prophets and they killed the people who run with the good news. But Yah says, I have prepared for her unmixed wrath. Unmixed. So the point here is Yah is coming to deal with the problem. And as I think this morning of the morning of the history of creation, before human being entered into human protoplasm, at that time when Yah spoke Adam into being simply by words, and we realize now that according to chapter 12 and verse 26 of the book of Jubilees, that the language of creation was Hebrew, which all of Africa spoke, and Asia, and all the surrounding areas. This is while Europe was in darkness. These are facts. We have empires in Africa buried under the sand, greater than anything that exists today. How do you think they built pyramids? So at that time when creation was vibrant and real and young, Adam was no more than an abstract anonymity. Yes, he was an abstract anonymity. But then Yah took a piece of clay and formed him and breathed into him, and he became a living soul, at which time we were tucked away in his loins. And Yah said, you will live at certain stage, and you will live down there in the ages, and you will be witnesses for me. And this is why I said it is a great privilege for us to live and observe some of the things we're observing now. Men of old would yearn to have seen them, would yearn. So when I see men with their war machines and their bombs, I see it as nothing more than the insolence of impudence. Oh, yes. It's a trait that they have, and it's made them rude and impertinent. So the gall of human impudence, I'm talking about the audacity and the effrontery that they display today with their machinery, because Yah said, those who destroy the earth, he will destroy them. That's what he says. Revelation 16. Then I saw three unclean spirits. We talked about this on Wednesday. Like frogs coming out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet, for they are spirits of devils, working miracles, which go out unto the kings of the earth and of the whole earth to gather them to battle for that great day of Almighty. Behold, I come as a thief. Blessed is he that watcheth and keepeth his garments, lest he walk naked like the people of Laodicea. And they see his shame, and he gathered them together in the place called the Hebrew tongue Armageddon. It seemed to me that we're on course. The people are on course for this great rendezvous with history, because they have not understood the word of Yah, and they have no intention of understanding. So when the protection of human laws shall be withdrawn from those who honor the law of Yah, there will be in different lands, in different places, in different highlands, countries, a simultaneous movement for their destruction. And the time appointed in the decree draws near. I hope we're seeing it. But we're told at that time, Michael will stand up for Yah's people. He will stand up. So when the church's light go out, when it goes out, and when the people are listening to seducing spirits and doctrines of demons, meaning they have left the faith even though they're state members in these churches. They have turned a deaf ear, a delinquent ear to the fourth angel. Come out, my people, come out, because Babylon, Mr. Babylon, not Daniel's Babylon, but Mr. Babylon. The church now functions as Babylon, with every unclean bird and every hateful thing that sends a stench to Yah's nostril. Come out. Let's close on this. Revelation chapter 7. Revelation chapter 7, that's Chizayon. And after these things I saw four angels standing in the four corners of the earth, holding the four winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on the tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living Yah. And he cried with a loud voice to the four angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of Yah in their foreheads. Don't let this happen. Yeshua is on the temple. He's making atonement. Seal these people in, because when he comes out, there will be no intercessor in the sanctuary, and they will have to live without a mediator in the temple. Seal them. Because Michael will stand up for them at this time. Seal them. And as he looked, he said, I saw them, 144,000. The same group of people we see in Revelation chapter 14. No guile in their mouth. No false doctrine. They follow the Lamb wherever he goeth. And so, this group of people represent a threat to Satan. In chapter 12 and verse 17, you see that very distinctly. It says, and I say this to those who pre-select themselves as remnant. It says, and the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed. Remember, the woman here that gave birth to the man-child was Israel, not the church. The man-child gave birth to the church, but Israel gave birth to the man-child, Israel. So if you are a remnant of the seed of the man, you have to be an Israelite. Not an Israelite born in Israel, but one who was born in Zion according to Psalm 87. You accept the Messiah. You cannot be teaching others that the Messiah has not yet come, as some do. He came and he died, and he's coming back. That's what we're waiting for. And the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandment, including the feast days, and they have the testimony of Yeshua. They testify of Yeshua. Those who reject him do not testify of him. We do. That's the remnant people. So may it be that as we go through the time of Jacob's distress, we are wrestling with circumstances that are beyond our comprehension, but Michael is here to deliver Yah's people. In Yeshua's name, please comprehend these things like the Bereans, because we ask it. In Yeshua's name I pray. Amen. Hallelujah.